Okay, welcome to Verdict Showcase number 88. We have a few different things to go over today, two of which are chat commands and potion effects. There's also a sort of tertiary thing with crafting in general for alchemy. I've also done a bunch of bug fixes, but I will mention them as they come probably. Just so you know, they are related to inventory stuff. So for instance, previously if you crafted something, it would open your inventory, or if you picked up an item and it opened your inventory, it would open none of the sub inventory types like the bag or the coin bag, etc. So that's been fixed. That's no longer a thing. You don't have to worry about that anymore, which I think is probably a pretty good thing. It's not that big of a change, but it's also really important that it is changed regardless. We also have a few hearing things, which probably sounds strange, but what I mean by that is hearing ranges, and what I mean by hearing ranges is the ranges at which you can hear says, whispers, yells, etc. So that's going to be related to espionage and other sorts of things. That's going to be a potion effect as well that I'll mention in that section of the video, or that clip of the video. In particular, we have whisper hints as well. So if you guys ever played Spires or any other roleplay game, you probably know when someone whispers or whatever else, then everyone in a certain radius can hear the whisper, or say, everyone that's next to them can hear the whisper, right? And then everyone on screen can see that they whispered. That's now a toggleable thing, and you can also adjust your whisper range within a certain, range. So up until your natural whisper hint range, I call it, you can adjust that. So if you don't want to hear whispers or hear that someone is whispering around you unless you're, within 3 tiles of them or something, you can set that yourself. Or if you don't want to hear them at all, you can also toggle that, which I'm going to be showing off in a second. And if you want to maybe turn them off altogether, but when you turn them back on, you want them to be a certain number, a certain range, then you can do that just as easily. Whatever the case, we're going to be going over a couple of them in a second here, particularly chat commands as soon as this time lapse ends. And that this entire list of chat commands that I'm going to be rattling off real fast is just an attempt to show you guys what's possible with what I'm going to be showing after this whole segment. It's all stuff that I'm pretty proud of, frankly, because this is something that's very difficult to do in a lot of other games. You don't have a lot of variants of chat commands for different reasons, but there's no real structural, integral reason behind not having a million chat commands, right? Like, it's just easier for players if there's a lot of options as to what they can say or whatever, right? So one thing you're seeing right now is one of our focus commands, or many of our focus commands, I suppose. You can see very clearly how high your focus is, how low your focus is, how fast you're regenerating, and how long it'll be until you're full. You can now also see easily if you're muted from IC or OOC, so that's right on your doorstep, very simple to do. And for the record, crafting recipes also now reduce your focus. I don't know if I mentioned that, but whatever the case, you can also see now that I am enabling and disabling whisper hints, so that's exactly what I was talking about just a minute or two ago. You can now disable, enable, toggle, etc. all of whisper hints. So if you don't want to see them, or if you do want to see them, or whatever else, it's up to you. It is well within your control, and I have no realm over it, so it's definitely yours. I know that that's something that pisses people off quite a bit. I think that that'll be something you guys enjoy substantially. And in just a second here, I'm going to pull up a little snippet of code. It's just going to be a little scrolling window. Trust me, it's not that big a deal. Don't worry about it. Even if you don't know what code is, you'll probably understand what it means. This is just a sort of registry of different commands that work, and you can see we have a ton of them. All of this stuff is super easy to set up. It is literally as simple as adding that line there. And if the function for it doesn't exist, then it is just as easy to put it there. That's, of course, a little bit of an extra step. Like, you have to manually put that in, but whatever the case, it's not a big deal. Anyway, we're going to be going on to the potion section of the showcase, the next clip, I suppose. And I hope you guys enjoy that, because there's a lot of work that went into that. So whatever the case, I'll leave you to my past self, because that is, in fact, not a voiceover, and in fact, a pre-recorded clip. Enjoy. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, we're going to be going over some of the alchemy recipes, and this is going to cover a few different things, primarily the recipes themselves, of course, but also the potion effects. So if you weren't already aware, the whole gist of alchemy is going to be that it's less universally useful. So if you take blacksmithing or lapidary, they obviously have these cookie cutter usefulnesses, I guess, where you need a weapon, you need armor, you need amulets, etc., right? So you want those things, and you need those things, and you need to upgrade those things. So how do you make alchemy competitive, right? Well, Alchemy and all of the potion recipes are intended to be very unique. They're all coded individually, so each of them does a unique thing that's special to itself, so they all can do whatever they want to do or whatever I want them to do. And that's sort of the kicker that makes it so special to be an alchemist, right? Because even though you do not, slot potions up before battle, you still have a pretty significant use for them, right? So I will note one thing here before we get into this. All of the recipes are currently sapphires. I have some small issue with herbs in recipes that I'm trying to fix out, so that bug needs to be fixed before I can actually suitingly fix up all of the recipes for potions to work that way anyway. But until that happens, we are going to be using sapphires because that's just the default recipe for most crafting recipes in the game. I also need to go in here and buy the Alchemy Masteries real quick, and we're going to look at and talk about some of the Alchemy recipes. So I went over this briefly a long time ago when I first made these, but I'm going to go ahead and go over them again just to catch you guys up to speed. I'll do it quickly. So we have Pilferage Potions. Pilferage Potions they subtract 1 from all of your stats and refund half of the stat points removed. What that means is essentially it's a really shitty permanent way to lose stats, but also to kind of free up some space. It's a bad potion for sure, and it's intended to be because it's tier 1. It's just sort of there to be a creative asset, I suppose. And if you, for some reason, decide to use it, it's not the worst thing in the world. Like, it's not like you're literally crippled for the rest of your life. You just lost some stats. It is going to be a worse version of a better future potion. So it's sort of like a foreboding kind of, hint at a future potion recipe that you'll get at tier 3 or something like that. We also have Potion of Corrosion, which is very simple. It is quite literally just the grind geode recipe pushed into a potion. So you use this alongside let's say you want to grind down a geode, you just use this with a geode in your inventory and you don't need a grindstone for it. Very basic, not too complicated. Talking Heads is a whisper range enabler, so you can actually hear whispers from other people from a further range. You might say that sounds really important. Why is it tier 1? The reason for that being, frankly, I want to discourage people from whispering, and there's a lot of mechanics that are going to go into that, but essentially what I've done recently, and in order for this potion to work, I've increased the range of whispers, and I've made it so that there's a easy way, that being Talking Heads, this potion, to hear whispers and incentivize people to not whisper in public. If it's something that needs to be private, make it private, not a public conversation where you spam people with whispers. That'll be something I show off in a minute as well. We actually had a chat command related to that, so we'll go over that in a minute. But Cultivated Fungus is a kind of fluff potion. Again, it's just a cute little thing that you can fluff up your IC with. It actually halves your health. It just deals half of your max HP as damage. This can KO you, so it's relatively important that you don't do that. And Bottled Insensibility is a little complicated. You lose track, or quote-unquote lose track, of 5 randomly chosen spells, 4 of which are completely refunded. It's sort of like a spell-ish version of Pilferage Potion, meaning that you lose a bunch of things and you are refunded for a portion of those. Again, this is a lower grade version of a future potion recipe, so later on we'll add a tier 3 recipe where you lose maybe 1 or 2 spells and get refunded for both of them, right? And finally, we have Speaking in Tongues. So this is going to be a tier 2 recipe, potion recipe obviously, but it's going to be a little bit different, and it's going to be an advanced version of Talking Heads, where instead of having only whisper ranges increase, all of your hearing ranges will increase. So whisper, say, and yell, you'll be able to hear from further distances way more easily on all accounts, and you'll also hear whisper hints, which I'll talk about in a second, more easily as well. Whatever the case, I think we're ready to go over some of these. The first one I'm going to go over is Potion of Corrosion, for which I'm going to need some, you can see I already have some geodes and gems, but I'm going to need some ore here, and then as soon as that's done, we can go ahead and make this potion. So we can grab this ore here and sapphire and craft this, and you can see it successfully crafts that potion. And if we select this, we can view the description. You can read that if you want. It's very simply a bottle of acid. It's essentially just diluted acid that allows itself to melt through rock but not gem. It's very straightforward. There's a reason it's tier 1, right? And of course, if you're not a lapidarist, this is the only way to actually get to the gem inside of a geode. So it's pretty useful, frankly. And if we go ahead and just double click this, you can see it tells us that we've poured the potion over one of these geodes, and for the record, the geodes do not go down right now. I don't know if you guys have watched the previous few showcases, but one common factor here is that all of the recipes and all of these things do not actually remove the numbers from our inventory. The reason being, if you haven't heard, that I really dislike having to find more geodes, especially now that they're only a 5% chance drop from nodes. So whatever the case, you can see it tells us that we dropped a sapphire, or we got a sapphire from this geode, and that we picked it up. So we can go in here and see again, obviously we have picked up that sapphire. So that's pretty cool, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of that. And we can go back in here, and I would show you guys talking heads, but that's sort of difficult to do in multiplayer. So instead, I'm just going to be going off onto cultivated fungus, which is very basic and straightforward. We can craft that. I'll show you guys the description down here. It's straightforward again. It's literally 50% health, max health as damage. So I can consume that, and you can see it says you've noticed a distinct pain, and currently the health is having some trouble. That's something I'm going to have to explain in a future showcase. So right now it didn't subtract the 50% health. You will notice that. The reason for that, though, is unrelated to that potion. It's actually related to the injury system that I'm going to be going over next showcase, which I hope you guys are excited for, because that's going to be pretty crazy. It's a pretty in-depth system that I'm very proud of. Whatever the case, you can imagine it doing 50% max HP as damage. It's not that crazy, or it's not that obscene, I suppose. And again, Talking Heads is more of a multiplayer thing. Speaking in Tongues is the same. And Pilferage Potion, we should be able to show off. I will say, before I do this, there is a good chance it won't work, but we will see. The primary reason being that I do not actually have any stats invested here right now. I guess we could try and buy some right now. We could just toss some into these stats here and hope this works. Who knows? That actually worked. Okay, it doesn't refresh the stats, but I don't know how to express how happy I am that worked. I genuinely have not actually tested that at any point in time. That is literally written in code to just what you saw right now. Not a single test. It just worked straight up. Okay, I'm amazed. I can't really overstate my happiness of that. Regardless of my happiness, that is the description as with the other potions. You can see the description and everything. I forgot to show off the description of the recipe itself, so I'll quickly grab another one and show this off. You can just read that at your leisure. But obviously, it says you scavenged 8 stat points from Pilferage, so that means that you just got half of your removed stats back from that. So pretty basic stuff as far as actual functions go, but as far as the actual craft, I'm really happy with it. I think that that's a cool idea for crafting, specifically for alchemy, that it's this sort of unique and very special purposed tree, I suppose, compared to blacksmithing and lapidary, which are equally sort of compartmentalized and fundamental to the player. They're both weapons and gear and all that sorts of things, whereas alchemy is a very unique, special, customizable tree of masteries. Whatever the case, I think that we're good here. I am going to go on to the next clip or the end of the showcase, depending on what I decide to do from this point onward. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys look forward to the rest of the showcase. Bye. We are once more at the end of another showcase. So today was pretty fun. I unfortunately did get a little bit late. I had a terrible sleep schedule incident earlier and ended up posting this basically an entire day later than when it should have been posted, but that was just because I went on vacation over the weekend, so I got a little screwy. But whatever the case, I did want to show and tell you guys all about this stuff, so I'm glad we got that out of the way. Next showcase should be on time. I have a lot of stuff planned with medical stuff and injury stuff for that, and I hope you guys enjoy that as well. I did want to say at the end of today that we are really close to getting to a beta. I realize some people brought up with me some concerns about that kind of stuff. Trust me, we are really approaching that. I have an artist in mind. I sent them a test case. They sent me back the result. Very nice. Pricing's good. The actual animation itself is way, way better than I expected. It really looks great. So I'm super hyped for that. So I just have to finish that out. It'll be pretty expensive, but once it gets done, you know? So we'll get that done, and as soon as that's done, we'll be basically ready. The only thing left to do from there after the base is complete is to get clothing done, and that's relatively simple as soon as the base is done. It's going to be a little bit more expensive than I anticipated, but nowhere near as expensive as doing it hand-drawn, or hand-animated, I suppose, and I'm really hyped about all that stuff. So whatever the case, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys understand where we are. If you have any questions about how exactly the game is going, or maybe like if you want like a kind of roadmap, we don't really have much of a roadmap to the beta itself, but if you'd prefer a more general roadmap about the beta and then the launch and all the other stuff relating to it, 100% down to give you it. Just feel free to DM me. I'm Rumi1031 on Discord. So either way, I hope you guys enjoyed today's showcase. Again, medical stuff next showcase. Hope you guys enjoy that as well. And I hope you have a good day. Bye.